Keep my phone away from me.
Wow. Okay.
Why?
I can
Hello.
see
Just
it.
rings
People
like
are-
crazy. I have friends that show
As
up
soon
late
as
at
our live stream is set up. Hi there, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome to the Tiny Sponsor panel. Finding your voice and design a strategy to create the right content. The right content is really important because if you're just pitching into the wind, nobody's going to catch what you're throwing. You've got to have a message, you've got to have something special. So we have a really interesting panel for you today and a bunch of questions, and we will have time for questions at the end of the show. So first, I'd like to introduce Alex Deal. Alex Deal is a yoga wellness influencer and teaches at Core Power Yoga. Alex, could you explain a little more?
Yes. So I focus my Instagram and other social media primarily on yoga because initially when I just had like a personal page, I noticed that the trend was that my yoga stuff was getting a lot more likes than everything else. So I was like, great, let me pigeonhole myself for a little bit. And I ended up growing my following from that. And then now actually what I'm in process of right now is taking myself back out of that pigeonhole and expanding my social media so it's more representative of the different aspects of myself, which is an interesting balance to find. So I think it's an appropriate time to be talking about finding your voice.
Okay, next. The handsome man in the suit is Peter Van Voorhees. Now, he's the chief strategist at Magnum Strategies, but that's not really why he's here. He's a major influencer in many ways, and I'm going to let Peter tell you about it.
I'm not sure about major influencer. I guess I influence a few things. My main gig is I am the chief strategist of Magnum Strategies, which is a full-service public relations firm. We work with executives, self-funded politicians, and basically anyone else who wants to cut the line and get press mentions on themselves. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I do basically political commentary on Fox News, CNN, and a lot of the other networks where I provide a political perspective, and then I'm able to essentially use those relationships that I have to help my clients do the same thing, both for politics and for business. So would be happy to answer any of you guys' questions that you have about the news media, as well as ways that you can take advantage of that for your business and for your life to get on TV. It is easier than you'd think, and the TV networks are starving for guests. Just have the right pitch, and we'll talk about that today.
Peter, I know you do social media. What is your number one channel?
Instagram is what I use primarily. I use my Facebook just to kind of like post articles, and then I don't really use my Twitter that much.
And Alex, I forgot to ask you, what's your number one channel?
Instagram as well.
Okay, next is Ashwin Jacob, who has a unique thing. You got to be doing more podcasts, Ashwin. I went and checked your podcast.
Yeah.
You got to pump that up a little bit. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Cool. So I'm Ashwin Jacob. I'm the host of the New Hollywood Podcast. We're a top 20 podcast on Yahoo, NASDAQ, top 100 on iTunes. We do a lot of interviews with various celebrities, influencers, and notable names in business. My background is I was a celebrity talent manager and brand consultant, so I've worked on marketing for feature films like Mission Impossible, creative strategy for various celebrities and brands. Recently, I've positioned myself away from being a talent manager towards on-screen talent myself. And today, for all of you guys, if you see the painting right in front of me, I'm going to be giving that to one of you guys. It's a limited edition screen print from Paris Fairchild. It's one of 50. It's a beautiful piece. All I want you to do is share your biggest takeaway on your story on Instagram and tag my Instagram, and we're going to pick a winner at the end at random. And I don't even have it on my phone. It's with Woody over there, so he's going to pick a winner at random.
And next, the lovely lady with the curly hair is Marissa Mize. Mize.
Yeah.
And she is kind of unique, too. She's a filmmaker. You're new to Los Angeles, basically. Not from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And you set out to do a career here. You carry on with the rest of it.
Yeah, so originally I moved here about 2.5 years ago. I moved here for acting. I moved from Alabama. I was at college in Alabama, and then I moved here. I originally moved here for acting, and then once I got here, you gotta pay bills and stuff, and I loved being behind the camera, in front of the camera, yada yada, so I started doing, working for YouTubers and everything making my own YouTube videos, so which got me into the YouTube community kind of thing. So I make my own YouTube videos. I also do videography full-time, along with whenever I book an acting gig. You know, got to pay those bills and stuff, and might as well do something I enjoy. So I love making videos, my own videos, helping other people with videos, and just kind of picking up whenever someone asks me to do something. I just love being creative and just helping out with someone with their vision.
So you do videos for yourself on YouTube.
Yeah.
But you also do them for others,
Yeah.
which is a great way of building a business off of your career,
Yeah.
meeting people. It's a great idea.
It's 100%, because when I got into videography, it was working for YouTubers, which then I start with a personal relationship first, so then it helped me with doing like collabs later on, or helping myself with, you know, being friends with them, and they just liked me as a person in general, and I would never use like it, you know, in a non-business type way, but it helped when starting my career in YouTube and stuff like that, of knowing what I wanted to do.
That's great.
Yeah.
They're very creative.
Thank you.
Because when you're doing this, you know, not everything hits all at once, and you got to have everything as a side gig, except this lady. This lady is Amanda Marzoff. She's an agent for alternative programming, digital media, licensing, and the branding department at Abram Artists Agency. And I'll let you describe, because I'm dying to know what alternative programming is.
So essentially, alternative programming just means reality TV, and so that encompasses representing reality stars. And then celebrities with big followings. The digital side of it is obviously influencers, YouTubers, bloggers, digital creators, just across every platform, every category. And then we also just launched our podcast department, which I am kind of supervising as well.
That's great. Yeah, podcasts are getting too huge now, right? But the bad ones fall behind and the good ones come forward.
There's definitely a big gap.
There is. It's amazing. And I'm Marcia Collier. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an author. I was very grateful when social media came around, because this was a way I could finally reach my readers, because I've always put my email address in all of my books. You might know some of my books. eBay for Dummies, that's still a big one. It's going into the 10th edition. I've written over 50 books, The Ultimate Online Customer Service Guide. I was the first person who figured out that customer service really should be done on the internet, and guess what? I was right. I also do a podcast, technology podcast. If you just Google Marcia Collier podcast, I think iTunes has over 400 of my podcasts up. And I do Tech 10 Minutes on Tech Thursday for KFI Radio, if you know KFI Nerdorama. And I love what I do, because there's so much, and the world keeps changing. And as long as you keep learning, you're going to keep growing with it. And I've sold over 2 million books, and I got to tell you, social media had a lot to do with the fact that I've sold those books. When don't laugh, hey, I write books for real people. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for Seniors, for Dummies, came out in December. It's exceeded the publisher's sales figures by 180%. It's a huge seller. There's a big market for regular people, and regular people want to see you. So don't consider that you just want to market to the social media crowd. Once you get into real people, you're going to have a great audience. That all said, we have our experts here, and I want to ask you, what are your goals for being on social media? Let's start with Alex.
I'd say my goals with social media are to connect primarily with my audience. I think a lot of times social media can be a very, when it's done in a certain way, it can be very self-indulgent, and it can be very performative. And while there definitely is that aspect, ultimately what I want to be able to do is connect with people, make the world a little bit smaller, and find a little area where we all have like similar interests. And even if we're physically apart from each other, it can help bring us together and raise us all up.
But are your goals to get more people to take classes from you? Are your goals to eventually do a series of yoga classes online and have people subscribe to that? There's got to
Totally.
be an end game.
So yeah, actually that circles back to what I was alluding to earlier. Initially, I was mostly just fascinated with the generation of followers. Like, what can I do to get more followers? What can I do to get more likes? And then I realized that I was oversimplifying who I was as a person, and my page started losing a little bit of its authenticity. So that's when I decided recently to shift my focus on really focusing on this connecting. So one of the things that I'm taking myself out of the like private yoga class sphere is that I'm actually developing a website right now that'll take my knowledge from personal training and yoga training and kind of combine those in a way that'll sequence classes for you so you can log in and do that type of thing. Because often what I hear is, oh, it would be great to go to a yoga class, but like I don't have an hour, and then on top of that driving there and then parking and blah, 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 blah. But there are so many benefits everyone can get from it, and it can help in other avenues of your life. So that's one thing I'm working on. And then also what I really admire, but I've not really brought that much into my page yet, is I really admire when people get to a place of influence and then they use that to give back. So I'd like to find some causes as well, and then, collaborate with them so that we can raise awareness and hopefully, fundraise for really important things.
I think that's great. And we had to dig deep a little bit to find a core that's going to keep you going and keep your rent paid and keep your bills paid while you do what you enjoy. You obviously have a passion.
Totally. And also while keeping it, I think my buzzword for the time being in my life is keeping it authentic.
Right.
Because last year when we were talking on this panel, I was kind of in that phase of being super fascinated with getting people to follow me. And then it kind of just seemed like a cat chasing its tail, if that's the phrase. Because it was like, okay, great, now I have more followers. What do I do with them? So now I've gotten to the phase where I'm like, okay, what is going to be what I choose to do with this platform? And I think that it's really important to not only develop your brand and find your voice, but maintain that.
I wasn't going to say this at this point, but I have to tell you, it's kind of a sticking point with me, and I've been writing about this for a while. And that's the difference of thinking of the words followers, audience, or are they your community? So that when I hear people on TV or radio, follow us, do this, why should people follow you? You're giving back benefits. So what we really need to do is think of the people as our community, unless you're just broadcasting, which is a legit business, but I think for you it's definitely a community.
Definitely, and connecting and finding that common ground, for sure.
Peter.
I would say for me, it's all about just being authentically myself. I have zero goals in terms of social media followers, engagement, doing whatever on that, because I guess I became an influencer by accident, so I never really tried to become one. So I've never really felt the impetus to want to do sponsored posts or anything like that. I think for me, the real value is that people can come, they can watch my story, they can see my post, and they can say, yeah, he's the same person that, he looked like he was on TV, or he's the same person that, I thought I met at that conference or something. And I think it's a reaffirmation of whatever I do and whatever I stand for. And it's all for me. It's probably a good combination of about part personal content, because it's just, it's my page, so I'll put what I want on there, but also content that adds value. For me, that's political content, so giving my analysis of stuff that's happening in the news, or what people should think about, or maybe why you shouldn't be concerned about something. I think there's a lot, at least in today's society, in terms of politics and news. It's something that's on a lot of people's minds, so in that case, I basically use that as a way to build my audience and build my following by explaining to people, what they should be worried about and what they shouldn't be worried about. Because, well, we can get into the reality of the news media later. I don't want to get off onto a tangent about it, but there's a lot of misinformation out there on both sides, and I think it's good to correct it, and that's essentially the value that I try to provide to people on there, because it's just one of 10 places that we could engage. So it's not really, I don't really view it as something unto itself. It's more of just kind of an external part of me, I guess, if you want to say it, kind of like a website, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense, but now we've got the why from you. I want to hear your end game from your heart. what in the end, once you've done this for a few years, or are you going to do it forever? Do you want to go somewhere else? Are you going to build a business adjacent to it?
Do you mean a business adjacent to social media? Or?
Yeah, other.
I don't plan to use social media in any direct way for it. It's just where people can find me for the most part. At the end of the day, I don't really like looking at it as something that's direct conversion, just because I think I think looking at your social media sites, at least for what I do, if it's a little bit more kind of private client stuff, looking at it in a sort of conversion style thing or trying to get clients from that, it's not really how it works. It's like 10 different touch points where they'll have seen me on TV, they'll have met me, we'll have had a phone conversation, they'll have checked me out on social media. They'll have read articles, whatever, and that's what ends up building the trust, not just the social media. So for that reason, I don't like to use it because I think it's too replicatable, and I would rather do something original, I guess, with it.
Okay, Ashwin.
So I live my life based on 3 pillars, which is influence, impact, and legacy. So social media allows you to create a realm of influence. And my background was I moved to LA with $500, an air mattress, built a large management company, ended up being somewhat successful, and then I realized that that didn't mean as much as personally connecting with individuals and brands to connect with people in an authentic way. It's not just about the celebrity, it's not just about the influencer, it's about actually connecting and driving real core value. So when I started creating content, I would have various celebrity or business people or influencer friends come in and share tips for anyone at any stage of their career. So someone that's starting out that has no resources, someone at the middle, and someone at the top. That allowed me to give back in a meaningful way outside of the high ticket coaching and outside of the large consults so that I could effectively help people. And the secondary goal of that is through the content that we create little snippets that are very shareable. So the goal is for people to get enough value out of it that they share about it. Because realistically, if we have a good experience or an average experience, we're not going to talk about it that often. You need something that is highly impactful for you to want to share that. And anything that's bad, we'll talk about it all day long. So the goal is to try and spread some more positivity, because if I'm able to do something well through my network for someone else benefits from that. They're more likely to do something nice for the next person that comes into their life.
Ashwin, at the end of the day, what are you going to do to pay your bills?
I actually primarily do it through branded posts, and then I have corporate clients that pay me marketing budgets to come up with creative strategy and branding. I'm also working on a book at the moment.
Well, you see, that's what I wanted to bring out. Social media isn't an only gig. It's just not one thing you do. Social media is something. You may become an influencer, but it will make you successful in business if you manage things right. Marissa, you tell us what your end goals are and how you handle social media.
So I started social media like Instagram style, everyone did their weird posting their food pictures for a while in like 2010. And over time it got to me doing, when the whole Instameet culture was a really big thing, I went to every single one. Like, that's how I met so many people when I first moved to LA. That was how I met all of my friends that I knew, got in the community of that whole thing of, the whole Instagram model thing, like whatever. And then I transformed from that to wanting it to go from me just being like, oh, I really want to post this picture because it's really cool and I think it'll get a lot of likes, to I want people to, when they meet me in real life, for them to be like, oh, I knew exactly who you were already because your Instagram or social media or whatever is completely the same as you in real life. And that's like my really, really, really big goal, is for people to be so authentic online that when you meet them in person, or I've met so many people in person that I'm like, wow, you're not really the same in real life. Like, that's kind of disappointing. Or I post everything from I went through posting about any, mental breakdown that I had of something. I lived in my car when I first moved to LA. It's like those little things that I've thrown into my Instagram that people message me and they're like, hey, I went through this, or I'm going through this right now. Like, I'm so glad that you posted that and that I can talk to you about it or relate to it, or, and right now for the month of May, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I did every single post that I've done in May, I've done a dedication to Mental Health Awareness Month, and I've done a different topic on each post, and that has been like my biggest, it just makes me smile every time that I post this month, because one, it's super authentic. You know, I've not hidden anything, and I don't usually, even in my YouTube videos, I'll include anything. Like, and it's to the point of you see my full personality and everything. But for this month and everything, the amount of messages that I've gotten with people being like, hey, I know people don't usually talk about this, and this is like so incredible that you're just throwing it out there of you feeling this way or being who you are, and I feel like if I see you or talk to you about it that you'll never judge me, or, you know, I can't really talk to a lot of people about this, so the fact that they can relate back to it, or they see me and they see me as a instead of like a follower of me, they see me as someone they can talk to, or someone that is an audience, I guess you could say. It's more like they feel like they're my friend in a way, that they're following me on social media, not because they just want to be like, oh, I'm a big fan of her work. Also, yeah, like I love when people, you know, watch my YouTube videos and stuff, and it's really nice, but I really want people to be able to relate and always be true to themselves of wanting to be like, I can post that, and I really want people to know who they are on social media and see me as myself in person and online.
You know, I think that's so admirable.
Thank you.
Because I can't be myself on social. No, I can't. I mean, I could not go on Twitter. I have close to 250,000 followers and say I'm having a nervous breakdown. It's like, I can't do that. Each person with this is about branding, and you have branded yourself in that way. I have branded myself in a certain way, and each of the people who are up here have branded themselves in a certain way. And I admire that you're doing it and really deep down being yourself. But sometimes that can be hard when people pry and pick into your secrets,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. It's like, especially with the ones this month about, you know, mental health, it's a really, really randomly taboo topic that I feel like not a lot of people talk about, and that's why I did it this month, was because no one feels the need to talk about it, or they feel like it's shameful that, you know, people have depression, or they are sad sometimes, or whatever type of, whatever you have. It's really interesting to me that people think it's very, very shameful to talk about anything besides, I'm having a great life on social media. So I think it's really cool that when I talk about it, either people reach out to me, or they just privately message me, or they sometimes comment on the post too, which is like really cool of them that they, you know, went out there and did that. But a lot of people private message me and was like, hey, I never knew that someone else like this, or I thought you had your whole entire life together, or whatever, that whole, you know, online persona thing, that people just really come out and they're like, I am so glad that I feel the same way as you, and now I don't feel as bad about it. And then they authentically come out and they're like, hey, I'm feeling this way too. Like, thank you so much for posting this, and now I feel confident enough to talk about it, or talk to my friends or family about it and stuff, and seek help.
Again, I think that's awesome, but I wouldn't call it a fake life for those who don't expose themselves.
Oh, no,
fully.
definitely not. Yeah, no.
Because it just doesn't work for everybody,
Yeah.
but for you, it's perfect, and you do a great job
Yeah.
of it. You need to do more of it. I'd love to see you posting stories on Twitter about, all you have to do is put a search word in Google. It'll give you stories every morning. And just share them. Let people know more about what's going on.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
you do a great job.
Thank you.
And now, we have to get the 411, because Amanda knows what agencies want. She knows why agencies want them. And tell me your goals on social media, but also your goals in business.
Okay, yeah. So my goals, I guess, as an agent, my goals on social media, and I guess why I work in social media, because an agent can work in a lot of different, you know, categories. So you could represent actors, you could represent writers, you could represent voiceover actors. There's a lot of different types of talent. I think I work in this space because it's just a lot more creative. It's a lot more interesting. You're building businesses for people. One day, you know, I wake up and I'm creating a necklace line for a fashion influencer. The next day I wake up and we're crossing an influencer over into mainstream film or TV, things like that. So every day it's sort of different and interesting, and it's fluid, and it changes all the time. Where other types of agenting and aspects of entertainment, it's sort of the same. It doesn't change so much. Of course, it changes to some degree, but it doesn't change so much. So this sort of agenting is just sort of really interesting. And I think, I guess on my social media, or Abrams in general, our goal on social media, we really embrace it. We like to think we're kind of ahead of the game in a lot of ways, but we just want to champion our clients. That's all our goal is. I would say my goal for my clients on social media, is really to, my advice is always just, I don't want them to change their voice. I want their voice to shine through on their social media. I don't give them so much advice when it comes to that and the content itself, but it's just honing it and creating more of a brand, making it a little bit more brandable so that you can then take, whatever they've created, hone it a little bit, figure out what sort of the path is, and then take it off platform. So the goal, I would say, mainly for myself as an agent and my clients, because like you guys, they don't just want to be on Instagram for the sake of being on Instagram and growing a following. They come to it for different reasons. They want to grow a business. They want to cross over into some sort of interesting aspect of the business. And so it's honing it so that we can take it off platform and then create this necklace line and then create this clothing line or toy line or podcast or book or whatever it is. So that's sort of our goal, is always the ancillary businesses and creating more of a 360 business, because we don't know when certain social media platforms or certain things will end. We don't know. It may or may not. The bubble may burst, it may not. It'll likely more so just change, but we don't really know. And so, as an agent, my goal is to make sure my clients are in as many different possible things as possible, and things they want to be in, not just things I decide to throw them in. It has to be something they're passionate to be in, but to make sure they're making, not to go there, but money in as many different ways as they possibly can.
Well, social media isn't easy on any level, and it is a lot of work. And you talk about other platforms. My main platform is Twitter, because I write books and I go for people who will read. But I'm on the other platforms because I need to be there. Because if my readers want to find me there, I have to be there. So on Instagram, I just say, I'm an author, this is my life. And people find me, they know me. But finding content when you're a writer sitting and writing is not easy. In the past few months, I've been dog sledding. I was in Paris. I found pictures, and I'm always banking pictures to put on Instagram because you need that flow. And great stuff doesn't happen to you every day. You have to keep going on with it. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and they have to answer quickly because we have so many great people on this panel. So I want to start with you, Alec. What do you do outside of social media to brand yourself?
Outside of social media to brand myself, I would say it's weird because it is so interrelated to the social media, but I really think that my yoga practice helps brand me, because it not only creates like a box that I fit in when you first meet me from.
Well, it verifies your expertise.
Exactly. But then also within that, you can like open up the box and look at what else is inside. But what also is great about that is it not only categorizes me, so to speak, but I think that it also is great because the whole thing about yoga is self-exploration and like getting to know yourself and watching yourself change and examining your patterns, which I think helps me constantly be evaluating and reevaluating and transforming what my brand is and getting more and more specific as I go through. So since we're saying we're going a little quick, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. Peter.
I'll try and go pretty quickly. So
yeah, but you do this. You do this so many ways. So
yeah, I'll kind of leave the TV news stuff aside maybe just for now, but I could share some stuff that I think would be helpful. I think controlling page one Google search results for your name is imperative, especially if you don't have a generic name. You got to have blah 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 yourname.com. Same thing for your business. So I think having really well done sites on that, controlled page one Google search results, and then also one thing that I do is I write opinion pieces, political opinion pieces, but you can write business opinion pieces. You can be an author at places like Forbes or Entrepreneur, sharing your expertise. There's a lot of ways to do that, which will help you control your page one Google search results, which is basically your digital resume, because can't really be faked. It's just the stuff that comes up. So that's what people look for when they're looking for you, not so much just your strictly social media content or your website content.
Yeah, don't
So
stop doing it. And the more you do,
think
the
of it
more
as like a
you'll be on.
holistic thing. Like I always tell people, like if they ask like, how do I get verified on social media, or how do I do this, or how do I do that? I always say, and believe it or not, this has worked actually for a few of my friends I've told this to. I don't know exactly what they did after get verified, but they at least tried. I said, don't try and get verified. Try and become a person who's verifiable, in whatever category
Right,
you're
exactly. And
you're
that's
in,
what
yeah.
people ask me all the time, because I am verified, because I've been around for so darn long. I have a Wikipedia page. I can't control what's on it, but that all comes if you
If
do
you pay
a
enough
good
money,
job.
if you pay enough money, you can. We can talk, but I know some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. For the most part, no. Obviously, she's correct. You
Yeah,
can't you
that-
can't control that stuff until you get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars spent, and then actually you can. But that's a separate conversation.
Yeah, I'd rather buy shoes than
Yeah,
pay for...
me too.
Okay, we're running short on time, and we are being live streamed, so Ashwin.
Cool. I'll be super quick about this. So I guest on shows. I'm up for a couple of different roles. And the way that I built a lot of my social following was through third-party credibility. So people that I mentor, clients that I've had, and hosting private curated events. So I did a combination of celebrity events and entrepreneur events that I made very hard for people to get into. The harder it is for people to get a hold of you, usually the more they want to kind of engage. So it's really the scarcity of your time and your value. So kind of being omnipresent as much as possible.
How about you, Marissa? What do you do outside of social media?
I think that either working jobs that I've done that I'm myself in person, they're like, oh, I really want to work with you. And then, they like try to find you on social media and yada yada. As funny as this sounds, vlogging, like in real life, they are like, oh, who are you? What do you do? Like, whatever. And then they go and watch, your stuff, and that's all part of your brand. And then also, I think just working like with influencers, or just working my jobs in general of doing video and stuff like that. A lot of people look forward to your brand or try to find you on social media, and from working those jobs together, it's kind of just like a circle of life.
It is. It really is a circle of life, and it will pay off. And there's so much. We could probably go on for 2 hours on this topic because there's so much to tell. Please.
Yeah, I would just say things like this, to be honest. As an agent, I don't really brand myself outside of trying to be, somebody who is an expert on what I do. So it's things like this. It's networking, which is the boring answer, but a lot of networking. My clients sort of take the, the limelight.
Well, and real quick, I'm going to just ask one question. Just raise your hand with an answer. How many of you have a lawyer, a manager, an accountant, and hire professionals to do work for you?
Like all of them, or
I have a lawyer.
I have a few of them.
You need
All of them?
at least know
Not all
one.
of
One of the worst things you can be saving money on when you're starting out or you're becoming an influencer is not having good legal representation, looking over contracts by yourself, and then after you sign it, you can get a really rude surprise. A good accountant is going to know where those tax deductions should go. And you don't need to be paying a ton of taxes because there's a lot of expense in being a social media influencer. So, one last thing. We talked about being yourself on social media. We talked about what you bring to the table. Quickly, what is your advice for everybody out there who wants to be a social media influencer?
I would say create content that you would want to look at and to engage with people who are trying to engage with you, as long as they're not like creepy or weird. I've heard a lot of people be like, oh, I don't bother reading my DMs if it's not from someone I know. But I find that that's such a disservice to yourself, because it can really, make a new fan out of someone who was just like kind of aware of you, and then they'll share that with other people as well, just to keep it brief.
The importance, I think, also the community of all of us here, and being in Tiny Sponsor and being in the industry when you finally get to be verified, you have to help each other. It's giving back to everybody. I follow everybody who comes to tell me, hey, I've followed you, I saw you at an event. It's important to build that community because we can all help each other, because the metrics that you don't see, the metrics that you probably see, are all tied in who follows you and who talks to you. And maybe getting a like is one thing, but if they say hello or great picture or something like that, that weighs in even more. So we can all help each other. Peter?
So it's two things. The first one, you got to relentlessly add value in your content in terms of
Yes.
making it, stuff that people are interested in. The second one is stop making it about you. The quicker you can learn that it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about the things that you can share, that's the best way to do it. And I'll give you a quick example. None of you came here to hear any of us specifically. Sure, we've done like decent stuff and all we've done, but you came here for the value that you'll leave the room with and what you can do to take it and apply it to your business and to your life. And if at the end of that you happen to think we're all cool at the end, then that's great. But that's just kind of a byproduct of it. So same thing in your social media, same thing in your business. Just go out and add value to other people and stop making it about you, and that'll make it work.
That's perfect. Ashwin?
I would say I definitely agree with Peter on bringing value to the people that are following your page or engaging with you. That's the number one thing. Number two thing, to increase your engagement and the likelihood of people seeing you, there are 60 billion to 80 million pieces of content shared every single day on social media. The way that you stand out is trying to get other people advocating for you. So on Instagram, there's a new share feature. On Facebook, there's a share feature. You need to try and do something so that people want to share your content. And the only way you're going to do it is if you focus on them. It's a key to a happy life is a happy wife is an old saying that we've all heard. If you simplify that in PR terms, it's WIFI. You focus on what's in it for you.
And we could do a whole other talk on the Instagram algorithm. And when I talked about us all helping each other by clicking and talking and whatever, that's what makes a difference. So there's a deep thing in the Facebook and the Instagram algorithms that you should be studying. I try to share stories about that on my Twitter account so you can pick them up. Go ahead.
Banking off of almost everything that I've said and they've said also in this, just being something like relatable content of that people want to respond, want to comment back, want to do all that stuff is them wanting to share, my videos or something or your videos that they relate back to or they think is funny or they want to take that time out of their day to watch your 10-minute vlog for some stupid reason, it's that thing that they want to share about you that they're like, hey, this person is so relatable and this person is so yada yada that they want to share you so that you get successful so that when you respond to their comments, et cetera, that you stand out to them and that you take your time out of your day to respond to them. And it's just like a whole, again, circle. But
the interaction is so important.
Yeah.
So important. Because if you don't interact, if you don't answer back, it's useless. Amanda?
Everything they said, of course. And then I would say don't do it unless you love it, unless you have to do it. I've seen representing a lot of influencers, people struggle, people get taken down by cyberbullying, people, quit for lots of reasons. Don't do it unless you love it. And then, if you have something to say, something to, bring to the table, something to teach somebody. But, don't do it to get rich. Don't do it to get famous. Don't do it to get rich. You gotta love it. You gotta have something to say.
And you're not always loving what you're doing. I mean, I understand we're all passionate about things, but social media is 24/7. Like right now, I got nothing buffered on Twitter, and I'm starting to twitch because I got to come up with some stories. And there is a constant pressure, but it does pay off if you do it. Do you want to really quick talk about what people can do to win your picture? And then we'll have a couple questions really quick from the audience.
Cool. So anyone that wants to win the limited screen print, share something on your story about what value you got out of this panel. Tag myself at Ashwin Jacob, and then we're going to give it a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to let Woody pick the winner.
Perfect. Now, really quick, and which account, and what is your name on the account?
So the name is Ashwin Jacob and at New Hollywood. So it's just NEWHOLLY.
And that's on Instagram?
It's on Instagram.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I'm sorry we couldn't be longer. Yes?
You mentioned about getting on TV.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask what you do?
I'm a filmmaker.
Okay, very cool. So in terms of getting on TV and stuff like that, basically you're going to want to look at it as there's a couple different types of markets. There's sort of like kind of internet style TV, which is kind of video podcasts, things like that are a great way for you to initially get kind of tape, is what I'd call it, things that you can send to producers to prove that they're not taking a risk by putting you on, so they know that you sound good, you look good, and you can share a good message. Then from there, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find the thing that's really like, I guess, not about you, about it, like whatever the purpose of the film is. If you make films about culture, talk about the impact that it'll have on life. If you guys are out there doing business stuff, talk about, how this trend in business is going to affect consumers. Don't talk about your business. Position yourself as an expert on those, start getting tape of that stuff, and then, go to your local LA stations and say, hey, we've noticed this trend in this industry. If it's the influencer industry, you could talk about how there's $1 billion flooding into it this year, whatever statistic you come up with, and then say, because I do this, I'd be happy if you ever have a segment open to join you to talk about that. And you would be surprised the number of people that would have positive reactions to that, especially on a lot of these video podcasts. The amount of content that's being created is just exploding. And if you want to go out there and do that, it's just a function of asking and providing value as a guest that they wouldn't get otherwise, like the knowledge that you have. And people really do want that when you make it in a them first approach.
And everybody should put together, once you get some experience, a sizzle reel, really important.
Yeah.
Because people get to see mine is so old, Matt Lauer had hair. So, but it's there and it's kind of funny, and it shows that I've been there. I'm there with Barbara Walters. I'm with a bunch of people. So having that reel and saving these clips and using them is very important. You had a question. Okay, so I do marketing a lot. That's really not what I write about, but I find that everybody on social media needs to know about marketing. So perhaps you put a couple Google searches in for video marketing, film marketing, and have those stories come into you, and you look at them at night and you set up things that you'd like to share and comment about. I think that's a great way to start generating content. You don't have to do all original content. It's like I said, sharing it with people. If you know that you can go to my Twitter stream and probably see something that'll help you in that way, which I will do tomorrow, it helps build your community. Anybody else? Wow. Well, I want to thank...
There's a question over there.
There's a question. Go. Go, go.
Actually, you go first.
I was going to say that, there's definitely strategies you can follow to develop or to gain followers, but what I will say about those strategies is they don't necessarily translate into engagement. And that also then you kind of become a slave to your own schedule of social media, which was kind of happening to me before. So what I'd say is, like Marsha was alluding to earlier, if you can kind of set aside some time, maybe once a month, maybe more if you have more time, to just create content on that day or two, then you can have it to post whenever you want. And I would say the biggest thing is, like we've all been talking about, post content when you have something to say. I feel like it's almost a waste of a post if it's like an amazing picture, but you just like put an emoji as the caption. And also circling to what you were saying about not necessarily always having content related to film directing, you can always tag people that you're inspired with. Oh, I'm getting the music. Anyway.
It's kind of a hard stop here because we are live streaming. Remember the old cartoons when the hook would come? Well, I had two people come with the hook for me. So we're going to have to end this now, but what I'd love is for you to follow all these people, message them, ask them questions, and maybe see them outside, and I'm sure everybody will be able to help you and wants to. Thank you for being here.
Come on.
Thank you.
Oh, really?